Hi everyone, today we got a little bit more weakness. This is the NASDAQ here. You can see that low, lower, low structure, but the 144 EMA ended up holding up as support at 594, bounced a little bit from that area. If this holds, you can absolutely see this structure continuing. You can see we've had some pullbacks in here, continued to a higher high. Is this going to be another iteration where we kind of continue to a higher high, or is this going to be the start of a broader topping pattern? In the short term, you kind of have a left shoulder, head, right shoulder breakdown structure of that neckline here, but let's take a look at all of the charts and see if we can find some more evidence for direction for tomorrow. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. In news today, we got new home sales soaring 20% in August to a 3-year high. Massive move here, way higher than expectations at 20.5% in August compared to July. New home sales were around 413,000, an increase of 1.9% year over year. So big numbers here on the new homes side, much stronger than I expected, much stronger than I think everyone really expected, which for me, this means that the economy is still humming. People still have their jobs. People are still moving around and buying homes. So not everything is as terrible as it seems. So this is another kind of bullish indicator here for me. Moving over to fear and greed, 57 from a 58, very little movement over the last day after we had that bigger move down here. Still neutral on momentum, no movement on strength. Breadth, still no movement. Moved down just a little bit. We'll look at it later on the charts. Put call ratio flattened out today after spiking up just a little bit off of that extreme low level. VIX kind of hovered today, no movement there. We expected a little bit more out of that. Didn't really get it. And then safe haven demand, no movement. And junk bonds still hovering in fear. Then moving over to the economic calendar for today, you can see those new home sales, good numbers, 800,000, 20.5%, way higher than the previous number at minus 1.8%. Tomorrow we do get those core PCE prices and GDP prices. That is the big one. Want to see what we get for GDP tomorrow. I think that could be a big influence. Previous number was minus 0.5%. Current expectation is 3.3%. Expecting a good number here as long as that comes in fairly close to that 3.3 expectation. I think we should be in good shape. If we miss it, that could be pretty bad in my opinion. Moving over to the charts, relatively quick one here today, down only 1/3%, still holding that 9 EMA on the daily chart. As long as that holds, we're in good shape. Thought we might tag the 200 on the hourly chart down there at 658.90. Didn't quite do it. Came up a little bit short, found a little bit of a base here, and now we're kind of rallying into the after hours. Should be pretty good. This looks like a slight hesitation. Should be looking for a little bit more continuation higher. That's my expectation, at least for a topping pattern on the daily chart, right? This is just a top. Still would need to see a double top or a lower high, some kind of structure to say that this is done. So still expecting this to hang in there, even though it doesn't look super great on that hourly chart. You can see kind of a left shoulder, head, right shoulder, kind of. You got a bit of a neckline in here around 661.60, structurally broken, 200 SMA in there, still hanging in there as support. So we'll see. I would say this is not quite broken yet. Still just showing a little bit of cracks, waiting to see what happens. Still bullish overall thesis. Moving over to those tasty charts here, you can see on the hourly, a little bit of volume coming through, a little bit of rally after the volume, after hitting that lowest ATR band. Still bearish conditions on the hourly, but found some support at that lowest band. Want to see it push at least to the midline here around 663.30. 4-hour chart bouncing off of that trailing stop, and now we are in bearish conditions. 667.06 would be your trailing stop, just above this previous high here, but you can see bouncing off that 55 EMA so far still looks like just a relatively shallow pullback. Same thing here, bounced off that 55 and rallied. 55 looking for a little bit more rally, or at least a topping pattern. And of course that daily chart, we were super extended coming off of that upper ATR band. 8 EMA continues to hold as support. Even if we pulled back to the midline here around 653, I would say this is still bullish. So just looking for a little bit of pullback, and then we'll get a bigger continuation in my opinion. Moving over to the Qs here, same overall thesis with that high, lower high setup. This looks a little bit weaker, honestly, structurally. Came down to that 144 EMA and bounced, didn't get anywhere close to that 200, so not too bad, down about 1/3% still. Touched that 9 EMA, found support there and bounced. After hours, still finding a little bit of strength. Momentum swinging to bullish on the hourly. RSI, not so great, right? You still have this kind of lower high structure, but you would expect a little bit more upside. In my opinion, I don't think this is completely structurally broken, just needed a little bit of pullback. You had a lot of green bars in a row, very shallow pullback, more green bars. Now you just need a little bit more pullback before we have that continuation. We were super extended here, so I don't think this changes the thesis at all quite yet. Then looking at the Tasty charts here, really broadly the same thesis. Overbought condition, pulled back to the 8 EMA, not expecting too much out of this. Might pull back all the way to the trailing stop, that would be 583.50, about another $13 or 2.5% from here, not expecting anything crazy. And then looking at that 4-hour chart, we did get into bearish conditions with that big bar down to the lowest ATR band, but 55 EMA still holding a support. Still would expect this to give you a broader topping pattern, even if it is a top, but right now still expecting this to be a higher low structure and a continuation higher. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow. Russell did the same as everything else, pulled back to that 9 EMA, which was in the 241.39 area right in here. 241.05 was my level, catching a little bit of a bounce after hours. 242.10, looking like everything else, pulled back to the zone, holding support in the zone, looking to see what happens after that. Dow, same kind of thesis, 9 EMA holding a support, bouncing a little bit after hours. We'll see if we get the continuation higher from there, or ultimately like a double top pattern or not. Moving over to the Mag 7 here. Mag 7 was actually positive on the day, up about 0.5%. Yesterday was bad, down 1.43%, but today positive, still holding that 9 EMA, the same as everything else we've been talking about on the daily chart. As long as that continues to hold structurally, we'll be in good shape. But if that breaks, then you're looking for about another 3.5% down to that 21 EMA, down to VWAP momentum. A little bit bearish there. RSI hanging in there right on the SMA. Certainly extended to the upside, but this has been a long run, very consistently up and to the right. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft. Apple not quite getting to those all-time highs and now selling off a little bit more here today. Interesting to see that pulling back just short of that record high at 260. I thought we would get there. We're so close. Thought we'd kind of get that magnetism to the key level before we saw any kind of selling come in, but now we're getting a little bit more selling, down 0.83%. Does this pull back closer to 241, closer to the 9 EMA down at 244? And then Microsoft still kind of noodling around in here. You have a high, lower high structure potentially, with a high, waiting to see how this plays out in here. Still holding support at that 506.71 level, still holding support at the trend line above both of those on a closing basis, but the momentum fading, RSI fading a little bit. This is likely to go sideways, I would guess. I don't think it's going to crater by any means. Might pull back a little bit more, but realistically, I would expect this to kind of go sideways. I think it's pretty fairly priced in this area. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA. Tesla did rally here about 4%. Tesla seems to be the best of the Mag 7 here today. Big move, fully engulfed the previous candle. It's hanging out right at those most recent highs. Still think this could get to its all-time high around 480. Got the big psychological level of 500. Can we get into this area here? If we can, that would be about another 10% or so. And then NVIDIA still struggling, down another almost 1%. Can't seem to get above 180, or especially that key level we put on there, 183.97. If we can get above that, back to bullish. If we are still kind of finding resistance in here, I would say neutral to maybe bearish. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples continues to bounce here just a little bit. Couldn't get above that 78.88 level. Didn't even really touch it here, but another bullish day. Interesting. Inside candle for discretionaries. So candle of indecision, a little bit of a pullback, sideways action. We'll see. Really, both of these are kind of in a holding pattern. We fall into support for staples. Discretionaries looks like a top, but we haven't had a full topping pattern. Inside candle could be a reversal candle, could give you that potential for a higher high. Moving over to breadth, 20 and 50-day breadth continue to fall here. This is still kind of a weird structure, right? So you have kind of a low and a high here. We're still in the middle of this trading range. We're not getting below this kind of 36 area, but we're below the 50 area. It's selling off a little bit here today. It was up yesterday, even though stocks were down, but down here today with stocks being down. That is not generally what you want to see. And then same here on 50-day, big down candle, still not breaking that 52.81 level. That was the key support, and it still is structurally, still looks like this is fading off, but hasn't really broken yet. Moving over to the dollar. Dollar caught a bit of an up move here today. We expected the bounce. I was still bullish on the dollar, and I've been bullish for a while. It's taking a long time to kind of come to fruition here, but big up candle today. That is not super great for equities. If we have the dollar going higher and equities moving lower, that is a little bit more confirmation of some more potential downside to come. So maybe that means we're still waiting for that kind of topping pattern. And then once that culminates, this will be a broader, longer term top to consider. But for now, we don't know that for sure. Dollar showing strength off of a low, nice rejection bounce, higher low setup, looking for some more continuation here on the dollar. Moving over to bonds, really no movement on bonds. J&K pulled back just a little bit to the 9 EMA, TLT, very little movement, down 1/3%. Did drop below the level, wanted to see it hold that level. Momentum's a little bearish, still holding a low, higher low structure here. No changes really at all, but still like bonds over the medium term. Moving over to the VIX. VIX did go just a smidgen higher, then gave some of that back. This will probably pull back, give you maybe a higher low setup or a double bottom structure, and then that bigger spike up if that's ultimately what we're going to get. Again, still need that broader topping pattern. I think we're just a little bit too early here on that VIX for it to really give us a bigger spike, but ultimately I do think that it will. Moving over to my accounts, I did hold those covered calls for a little bit into the mid session and then decided to flip to a short put for tomorrow at 242. After hours, this did go up a little bit, but it is in a small loser position here. About 68, 69 cents on those for tomorrow. I think we'll get just a little bit of a bounce. I don't think it'll be too crazy here. I'm still looking for a broader topping pattern before we see any kind of breakdown structure. You can see I do have a few trades on here. I was looking at potentially putting on a short Qs position, and honestly, I probably should have left that on up around the kind of 614 strike, looking for a little bit of a longer position. I might still put that on tomorrow. We'll see, but ultimately for tomorrow, short term, still looking for a little bit of a bounce. Medium to longer term, I do think this might turn into a topping pattern. Let me know down in the comments section what you thought of the new home sales. What do you think we're going to get for GDP? Is everything going to continue to be really strong right now, or is this going to be a topping pattern just because stocks are so expensive and we need to come back down to reality? What do you think? Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.